there were two kinds of people. There were the people who didn't really know Mormon theology very well. Maybe they had gone on their mission a long time ago. They had some of the stock answers, but they were really actually now talking about theology, what they believed. And there was never a conversation that was the same with them. There was never, it wasn't like, and we see this in Hebrew Roots or the Torah movement as well, but there wasn't the stock answers like there was with the current missionaries and or bishops. So somebody would get stuck, and they would see their bishop walking by and they say, oh, bishop, come here, please. I don't know how to answer this guy. Okay, now as soon as that kind of scenario happened, I had to switch modes. And the reason I had to switch modes is because I had been trained for months and months and months on the stock answers. You're going to say this verse, and then the missionary or the bishop is going to respond with this verse. And then you respond with this verse, and then they'll respond with this, and then you say this. And that's going to put them in a corner. These were the kind of things that we had to memorize.
In other words, it's a pattern of what they call predictable speech.
Yeah.
It's like these 5 dominoes are going to fall, and you just need to be ready for it. And then
So, but the problem was that the Mormons they were like the Borg in Star Trek. They adapted. They learned exactly. You give them that stock answer a couple of times, and all of a sudden, everyone around it's like
your playbook. Right?
They talk to the hive, and then everybody knows that's going on, and now they have a new answer, and you have to now you have to try to shoot new torpedoes at them or whatever. I feel like that
race.
I feel like this is a little bit of what we're getting into in the Torah movement. Somebody's going to bring up Galatians 3. And what you're going to do is then you bring up Matthew 5:17 and following. And then they're going to bring up this, and you bring up Romans 3:31. And then, back and forth. And I think that is honestly one of the wrong ways to approach the scriptures. Because I think that what is happening is we're coming at Paul, we're reading a different person than mainstream Christianity. And what I mean by that is mainstream Christianity is reading a Paul that is a preacher from the 20th century. That's how they're thinking about it. They're letting all of these ideas that have already come up in the church inform them on how to read Paul, instead of doing what I believe we're attempting to do. What we're attempting to do, whether or not we're doing it well or not, that could be debated. But what we're attempting to do is to place Paul back into first century Judaism. Now, of course, I'm using very, very broad brushstrokes here, and that doesn't always work, because you do have some very good Christian scholars that I'm standing on the shoulders of, like N.T. Wright, E.P. Sanders, Jimmy Dunn, all these guys who have really tried and in many cases have done very good at placing Paul back into the first century context. Not fully, I don't believe. I don't think they've gone far enough. So what are your thoughts on this, Rob?
No, I agree on that last point you made too, benefiting from scholars. We use just one I came up the other day is Dr. Bill Mounts or William Mounts. We use his top-notch Greek first-year Greek material. We use his Greek reader, his graded reader. He's done such a great job. He's such a wonderful teacher, easy to listen to, etc., and has provided all these wonderful resources for learning Koine Greek, learning New Testament Greek, as they call it. But on the other hand, I was reading his commentary on, was it Thessalonians or Titus? His commentary on Titus, and I was just like, oh my, he is making these claims basically rooted in the position that you're generalizing here, of that somehow the law is done away. Now those aren't Dr. Mounts' words specifically, but in essence, that's the principle that you can see unfolding in his explanation of these passages of Scripture, like to the pure all things are pure, right, etc. which he takes as to those who are pure at heart, all things are ritually pure. So now he's changed the pure means something different in the A line and the B line, and that it pertains to the elimination of this category of ritual purity, which is just so problematic in so many ways. But we do have to focus. I'm still glad that Dr. Mounts learned the skills he had and became the teacher he is, because I benefited, and I know many people who have benefited from his labors. And so he did have to narrow and specialize and specialize and specialize and excel in order to become that in terms of bearing that kind of fruit for the kingdom. On the flip side, in my perspective, there is what we would call maybe an institutional bias against. It might be that he's never really sat down with someone to talk about this specific issue. I don't know. I don't know him, so I can't speak personally. But so a couple things I take for that. A, I have my own blind spots. But B, I do want to I benefit from, like you say, that we stand on the shoulders of scholars who've gone before us. But we also need to be able to ask questions and challenge them. Now, this gets back to, if I could say, someone quotes Galatians 3 and then you quote Matthew 5 or something. That has to happen within one individual, too. It's not like I just read Galatians, Caleb, and you read Matthew 5, and we're each in our own little world. I'm in my little world, Galatians 3, right? Each one of us have that challenge, and that could be within the Torah too, right? We have that with the word ger, right, in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. Well, wait a minute. Can the ger eat the torn meat or not? Or and your dad did a really good job in the beginning of his book, Fellow Heirs, which is an excellent book, of describing that situation. What do we do when we have verses that seem to, at first glance, not fit in the same puzzle? Right? How this puzzle piece doesn't even seem like it goes in the same picture. How does this work? So that's a challenge for us, not just between Paul and Matthew, but it could be between Leviticus and Deuteronomy. It could be between Isaiah and, I don't know, Genesis. I'm just making stuff up here.
Hey, Rob and I like talking about the Bible, and if that's the kind of stuff you like listening to, you should subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that by clicking this round thing over here.